I'm back! Good morning, everybody! It is 11:18, starting a little late here because if you're watching this after the fact, I'd already begun, but then I had a major audio problem. So I thought, you know what, fuck it. We're not too far into the show. Let's start the show again. So that's what I'm doing. It's Friday, February the 21st, 2020, and we're talking some Nightmare on Elm Street 2 today, but more specifically, a documentary that is called Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, starring the one, the only, you know him, you love him, Mark Patton, who played Jesse in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, or the original Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. There's only a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. This is something that really excites me. Now, for those of you that are not new to my channel, for those of you that are, you've been watching me for quite some time, you know that I am a gigantic fan of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I always have been since I was a young boy. I'm a 40-year-old man. In 1985, when the movie came out, I was 6 years old. So I can still remember it. There's something I remember. And I have older siblings. The closest in age to me is 9 years older than me. So thankfully, because I had older siblings who were well into their late teens and early 20s in the mid to late 1980s, I actually remember the 1980s very well, maybe even more so than the average 7, 8, 9-year-old does in the 1980s. So Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, definitely is the black sheep of the family. There's no doubt about it. And for a variety of reasons. I mean, we know the reasons why. But I like to make the argument, and I say this, you can make the argument, but I like to make the argument that Freddy in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 is arguably scarier than what he was in the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the look. I love the sunken in eyes and the hooked witch nose and just the way he looks when he's, it's amazing. Fucking amazing. I love and the way he sounds. It's great. Now, I am not saying that Elm Street 2 as a movie as a whole is better than the original Nightmare on Elm Street. It's not. But there are definitely a lot of things in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 that I absolutely love. And I think Elm Street 2 may have been now the first horror movie I ever watched. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. It's 1985. I don't know, but it certainly was one of them. And, I am a gigantic Michael Myers and Halloween fan. You guys know that. But, between 1981 and 1988, Michael ceased to exist. If you dressed up as if you tried to dress up as Michael in the 1980s, people thought you were Jason, and there's reasons for that. Between, the time that Michael was MIA, Freddy and Jason were tearing it up at the box office. It was a Freddy and Jason decade. They ruled the decade. I'm telling you, Michael was non-existent. And by the time Michael made his return, the slasher genre was going like this anyway, and it was the late 1980s. Freddy was the man. The fucking man. I remember taking a winter glove and taping Bic ballpoint pens on the glove. And that in itself is lethal. You could inject people with ink or something. I was walking around outside and all I had was a fucking top hat. Yeah, that's right, a top hat. I didn't even have a fedora. I just had this old plastic top hat. And there I am, like little 6-year-old Dave, walking outside with his friends going... that in itself, that could be another character right there. Some creepy 6-year-old in a top hat with a glove and pens taped to his glove and inject you with ink. It's fucking amazing. I also remember getting a winter glove and trying to take it to the next level by taking cardboard and cut. And this is before you could actually get the shit that you could get later in the 80s, like the plastic, that shit didn't happen to the late 80s. This was, I had like cardboard knives taped to gloves and shit. Freddy was the fucking man. He was the man. And Jason was his bitch. No, but Freddy was amazing. And A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, it has arguably one of the best opening dream sequences in the entire franchise. Now, I'm not saying the best kill. My favorite, and I still think the best Elm Street kill, bar none, is Tina. I'm telling you, on the wall. Tina! Tina! I mean, it's fucking amazing. It's amazing. Absolutely the best. But one of the best dream sequences with a touch of, well, not a touch, I mean, just it's like a Salvador Dali painting, this surrealism. It's like surrealism art. I want a screen capture of the bus sitting on top of the what's left of the ground, right? And the blues and the reds. It's just so awesome. I want a fucking like huge gigantic picture of that and put it up in my house. It's fucking amazing. Mark Patton, who stars as Jesse in the 1985 sequel, was not out as a gay actor in the 1980s, or at least at that time. And at that time, you didn't do that. I mean, if you were an actor in Hollywood in the 1980s and you were gay, you were instructed in many instances, if you had a publicist or an agent or a manager or all three, because they're very different, you would be instructed, you don't come out, man. It was a different world then. It's a different world in regards to that. You didn't come out. I mean, there are many examples of gay men who pretended to be heterosexual by even marrying women, dating women. I mean, for their careers. It would destroy their careers. It would destroy the public image that they had in the entertainment. I mean, imagine if in the 1980s, just imagine this now, okay? It's 1981, it's 1978, it's 1983. And you have somebody like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Let's say he's gay. I mean, he's not. He just got married to a woman. But let's say he is, for the sake of argument. The image that he has in the 1980s, that masculine, brute, muscle, our society wasn't mature enough then. And in many instances around the world still are not. But I'm just saying that, can you imagine? No, you don't fucking come out. Are you insane? You're going to destroy your whole image. Guys are not going to go see your movies. They're going to look at you differently. They're going to start calling you, you know what? They're going to start saying this and saying that. In a lot of cases, depending on who you were, those things did happen. Those things did happen. Thankfully, we don't live in that world anymore, although there's still fractions of it still left. And of course, there's the 1993 film Philadelphia. I mean, 1993 is not that long ago, folks. Not that long ago. And yes, it's a great movie. But the reason why it was all like, whoa, holy fuck, whoa, was because of the subject matter. I mean, now you make a movie like that, it's like, whatever, right? Okay. But 27 years ago, it was like, whoa, people were literally afraid to sit beside somebody who was gay on the bus or who had AIDS. You can't contract AIDS, by the way, through the air, just so you know. Or shaking somebody's hand. A fantastic film. And it's not that long ago. It's not that long ago. I mean, if you're 18 years old, it might seem forever ago, but if you're 40, I mean, I remember 93 really well, you know? Mark Patton had a lot of problems through that movie. And David Chaskin, I believe is his name, the writer of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, for years denied that there was any gay subtext. I mean, subtext. I mean, and even that's up for debate. But denies, like, I don't know what you're talking. Well, I guess. I mean, I guess so. I guess that. Well, he's since changed his tune on that. So I don't believe him at all. Now, do I believe that it was his intention to, I mean, sometimes, when you're writing something, because I do know that the director said that as they were creating the movie, obviously it some things changed and things became, maybe their words, not mine, a bit gayer. Okay. But there are things, I mean, there is a scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. If I'm not mistaken now, there is a scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. We know the scene. It's right. It's the scene where Freddy confronts Jesse beside the stairs next to the basement. Beside the stairs next to the door that goes to the basement. You remember the scene. It's like 30 seconds before he says, you know, you've got the body, I've got the brain. That scene. The original, I believe the original idea as he's caressing Jesse's face was to put one of his fingers with, you know, the knives on it, right? One of the gloved hand, essentially, put one of the knives into Jesse's mouth. Maybe it was two knives. I have no idea, but put it into Jesse's mouth. And Mark Patton said, yeah, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that, because at the time he wasn't an out of the closet gay actor. I mean, maybe his close friends knew he was gay. Maybe people suspected he was gay because obviously Mark has a bit of a, you know, a softness to him, right? A bit of a femininity to him. And he even did then. He's not, you know, your atypical masculine guy, right? And certainly in the movie, he's a bit soft. There's nothing wrong with that. Just that's, you know, how he comes across, right? Which obviously also helps to perpetuate the gay subtext. But Mark was like, no. He felt incredibly uncomfortable. I would too. If I was a gay man who knew that, God, if this gets out, I could lose my job, my career, everything, I'd probably say no too. Now it's a different story. Then, you would too. You would too. And who knows what Robert Englund would have been instructed to do? Would he have just put one of his knives in Jesse's mouth? Would he have put one of his knives in Jesse's mouth and went like this, in and out, maybe a couple of times, very subtly, very nuanced, very sort of almost inconspicuously? It's there, but if you blink, you miss it sort of thing? I don't know. He didn't do that because Mark Patton didn't feel comfortable in doing that. But the gay overtones and undertones, subtext and not I mean, it's there. It's there. Now, do I think every little thing was meant to be that way? No, I think once you recognize something is there and it becomes overt and it's very kind of like, oh, this is interesting, then every little thing that may feel or sound like it's alluding to that, you pick up on, right? Like, you know, you've got the body, I've got the brain. What's the one where Freddy says something about wanting to get inside you or something like that. Like, I mean, you know, you can start to read into a lot of things, right? But certainly, I mean, they go to a gay bar. It's a gay bar. And it's a gay bar in the movie. You know. This is not an accident, folks. And David Chaska, I don't know why you denied it. I understand why you denied it. Of course, now he's not. Anyway, I mean, one of my favorite, I love the feeling of the movie, Freddy in the movie, the tone, the way he is, the music. The music in Elm Street 2 is fantastic, by the way, and very underrated. Get the Elm Street 2 soundtrack. Even just that opening where you see the bus coming from, you know, the background. Just the way that sound. It's creepy as fuck. It's great. And Robert Englund, of course, is actually the bus driver. If you kids pay attention. Without the Freddy makeup on. There is a documentary called Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. And this is a documentary that I have yet to see, but that I would love to see. The trailer is on YouTube right now. Just YouTube, Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, and watch the trailer. It's very well put together, very well edited. If the production value of the trailer is any indication of what the documentary is going to be like, then that's a plus. That's a plus. I'm looking up there still. I should be looking down here. That is a plus. The documentary is, this is what it says on their website, which is screamqueendocumentary.com. Says, Scream Queen, my Nightmare on Elm Street sets the records straight about the controversial sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street, which ended Mark Pattinson's acting career. Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that this movie essentially ended Mark Patton's career? What career? Because he had dabbled in a few things before Elm Street 2, and he just never was able to find his footing again after that, or after Elm Street 2. And there are specific reasons for it. There are specific reasons for it. It's crazy. Just as it was about to begin. It's true. Scream Queen follows Patton as he travels to horror conventions across the U.S. Each new city unwraps a chapter from his life that is met with equal parts joyful and bittersweet detail as he attempts to make peace with his past and embrace his legacy as cinema's first male Scream Queen. Scream Queen also finds Patton confronting Freddy's Revenge cast and crew for the first time, including co-stars Robert Russler, Kim Myers, and Clue Gallagher? Am I saying that right? Hopefully, maybe I'm butchering that. I apologize. As well as Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund. Folks, I want to give a shout out here to the crew because it's so important. Like, this shit is just great. I'm so happy you guys did this. Co-director and producer is Roman Chiamenti. Am I saying your name right? Hopefully I am, buddy. I apologize if I'm not. Tyler Jensen is also co-director and editor. Matthew Shunjnaki. Am I saying that right, Matthew? Hopefully, maybe I'm not. Anyway, executive producer, buddy. Joey Gelfand is motion designer. Cecil Baldwin is your narrator. And Alexander Taylor is the composer. That is your, I mean, I'm sure there were more people involved, obviously, but that is the crux of your crew. Or maybe that's it. Maybe it's just them. Who knows? I mean, little independent productions like this, man. I mean, maybe that is it. I have no idea. But this is, I mean, it's important. It's so important. These kinds of documentaries are so important because there's so many he said, she said, there's so many things, there's so many misinformation, there's the game of telephone tag and all that kind of thing. It's so good to see independent filmmakers going out and saying, you know what would make a great documentary? You know, Mark, let's set the record straight. Let's really set the record straight. Now, when he confronts the writer and director of Elm Street 2, I believe the director's in this documentary, do they admit certain things? Well, judging by the trailer, that answer is no, and that there's still a bit of, I don't want to say animosity, but there's still a bit of, there's some disagreements, it looks like. And that's interesting to me. Now, again, do I think that David Chaskin absolutely 100% in his mind set out to make a gay, homoerotic, exploitative, sexual? No, not necessarily. But I think to deny, even when you're writing the movie, to deny that there wasn't any point in time where you thought to yourself, well, this is a little gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as Jerry Seinfeld would say, but this is clearly, I think it's just absurd. And of course, even the filmmaker said, well, we had no idea when we were making it that we had no idea. You have a gay bar in the movie. I have no idea. I thought all men dressed like Bob Shea. Bob Shea was the bartender in the movie, by the way. So it's like, come on. They knew. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, look, if this movie were made today, nobody would be, well, first of all, it would be out and about. Everybody would be saying it's a, nobody would care. I mean, I get why maybe at that time, but it's just funny because it'd be more believable if somebody said, well, you know what? You're right. There's a lot of gay subtext. We definitely, you know what? We thought this might be an interesting angle because Freddy he's a child murderer, right? And who knows what kind of weird and uncomfortable things Freddy might be. And we wanted to sort of add this, these undertones that sort of allude to this, but, we didn't really want to say anything at the time because it was a different world and it was a different place. And, and then sort of maybe apologize to Mark for some of the shit that he had to deal with and just own up to it. Rather than say, no, I had no idea. It was a gay bar. It was a gay bar in the movie. He dreams of. It was a fascinating sequel that I understand why there's a lot of people that don't like it. I mean, when it is a direct sequel to the original, it fails. I mean, it fails in terms of, it doesn't fail in terms of tone or scare or feeling and mood and atmosphere. But when you look at the story, you're kind of like, I don't understand this. Like there's some great visuals, there's some great moments. I mean, listen, one of the best visuals out of any Elm Street film, period, is fucking Freddy coming out of Jesse's body. I mean, that's just insane. The visual practical effects on that are unbelievable. Awesome shit. Awesome. Just amazing. Amazing. Some great stuff in that movie. And you can look at the movie from a certain point of view without the gay subtext. You can. I keep saying subtext, but let's be honest here. There's not a lot of sub to it. But there's, and again, there's continuity issues in terms of what they established in terms of Freddy and the dreams and how all of a sudden now he's at a pool party with everybody awake. Although some people argue against that and say, well, yes, but have you thought of this? And then other people say, oh, well, yes, but what about this? And there's an ongoing debate around that. And I get it. I understand it. It never bothered me for some strange reason. And I'm a stickler for that kind of stuff, but it never bothered me for some strange reason. But I will say that it is great to see this kind of a documentary out there. Not just because, and I say just because I think it is important, not because we're supposed to feel sorry for Mark because he was a not out of the closet gay actor in 1985 and oh, poor Mark. And I don't even think he would want that. I think it's really just about setting, it doesn't matter, gay, straight, bisexual. It's always good to see documentaries give insight into details that do their best to set the record straight from the actual sources. Not John who told Bob, who told Beth, who told Ryan, who told me. It's coming from the people themselves. Now, whether you believe them or not, whether you buy into what anybody's saying, well, that's up to you. But at least you get to hear what they say. It's on record. Now, Robert Englund also said in 2010, and this is contradicted in the documentary, Robert Englund said in 2010, where am I here? In February 2010, in a February 2010 interview with Attitude Magazine, Englund said the second Nightmare, again, this is 10 years ago, Englund said the second Nightmare on Elm Street is obviously intended as a bisexual themed film. It was early 80s, pre-AIDS paranoia. Jesse's wrestling with whether to come out or not, and his own sexual desires was manifested by Freddy. His friend is the object of his affection. That's all there in the film. We did it subtly, but the casting of Mark Patton was intentional too, because Mark was out and had done Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. Well, Mark Patton sort of contradicts that statement in, at least in the trailer. Now, maybe there's more context around his his statement. Again, this is just a line from the trailer, but in the trailer, Mark says in 1985, he was not an out of the closet gay actor. Now, people may have assumed he was gay. I mean, sometimes you can look at people and they possess a certain level of femininity or a certain level of softness, you know, that you kind of go, it seems a little like they might be gay, right? Maybe people thought that. I don't know. But then there are men just as masculine as would appear as me or whatever that are also gay. So, I mean, you know, they're not mutually exclusive to each other, but certainly maybe people thought it. Maybe people were like, I think, you know, he's kind of gay. You know what I mean? But what Robert said there in 2010 and what Mark is saying now in 2000, well, I guess that was shot in 2019, 1920, seem to contradict themselves. So, not sure whether, I assume maybe Robert maybe misunderstood the information, and maybe when you watch the documentary, it will be corrected in there as well. Now, this documentary, I don't believe is on YouTube yet for everybody to see. I know it was making the festival rounds last year and getting great praise from festivals, which is just awesome. I can't wait to see this thing. And I would love to get Mark Patton, if he wants to come on the show here, I would love to get him on the show. There's things I want to talk to him about. There's things I want to ask him. I'd love to get him on the show. And maybe if he's down for it, you know, we could get him on and and we could have you guys ask, you know, questions and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't have to be solely focused on, you know, the trials and tribulations of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I mean, we can maybe talk about some fun things that he had. I'm sure there were moments that were good, and maybe he has some good memories, and, you know, and certainly now, who he is now, going to the conventions and his act, I'm sure he would love to act again. Maybe. Although I shouldn't say sure, because maybe not. Maybe he's just like, nah, you know what? I'm cool, you know, with what I'm doing now. But certainly I know that it would be great to have him on. So Mark, if you're watching, I'd love to get you on. I do the show at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. It'd be great to get you on and talk about this, because this kind of thing is so important. Again, not just because of the gay angle to it and how it's kind of like, come on, right? But just it's so important that people have the opportunity to set the record straight. And what's also great too, in this documentary, it's not just Mark setting the record straight to the camera, and then you got David Chaskin, I think his name is, and the director, and and them setting their record straight to the camera, but at a different time in a different location. I mean, these independent filmmakers actually were able to get everybody together in the same room, talking face to face. Now, what editing has been done to cut down on time, what editing has been done, I don't know. I don't know what the raw footage would look like, but I would assume that these guys are being as genuine as possible with showing you what this kind of conversation was like. And that is one of the most interesting aspects of this documentary, Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, is being able to actually see Mark Pattinson, keep saying Robert, to see Mark Patton, not Pattinson, Mark Patton actually confront these people and say, hey, you know, we got to talk about this. I know it's a long time coming, but let's talk about this. Like it's been 35 years. You know, we can talk about this now. You know, it's and I don't want to speak for Mark or speak for anybody, but it's not necessarily that it's water under the bridge, because I still think there's some apologies that probably need to be said, or some admission of, okay, you know, whatever. Who knows? I don't know. I've yet to see the documentary, but it's the kind of thing where it's like, you know, we can do this now. Like, we're adults. We can do this. We can talk about this. It's not fresh. It's 35 years ago. You know, it's a generation ago, and then some. You know, we can talk about this as adults, and I get the sense that everybody, that's not exactly what happens, but that's what I would be thinking, right? But really cool stuff. I mean, this is something that is so important. So it is, like I said, when I go to the official website, which is screamqueendocumentary.com, and it gives you the cast there. Of course, Mark Patton is in it, Robert Englund, and Kim Myers, and Marshall Bell, and Jack Shoulder, and David Chaskin, of course, obviously, yeah, the writer Jack Shoulder. I think he was the director, I think. And then, of course, at the top, it it says fall 2019 tour, or tour, as you Americans like to say. And it has a lot of the dates for 2019, but nothing for 2020. So maybe it's done its festival circuit. Maybe it's done, and they're going to. I have no doubt that this thing will probably be on Blu-ray, and certainly YouTube, hopefully, maybe. But I don't know. Don't know what's happening with it now. And maybe some of you have seen it. Maybe some of you have already seen this movie, or this documentary, I should say. And if you have, I mean, that's awesome. I just can't stress how important something like this is. And you know, I mean, David, if you're watching, David Chaskin, the writer, I mean, again, for years he denied it. Like, he denied it in the way, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I just wrote a movie. I guess it wasn't my intention. And now, and for a number of years, he's since changed his tune. Now, is it because he changed his tune because people sort of opened his eyes to see what? No, he changed his tune because he was probably lying before. And now that it's been so, he's like, okay, yeah, I guess it's a little, you know, and it's obvious. It's obvious it's there, you know, and it's actually, ironically, a very interesting angle. You know, if you can, you know, get on board with it and sort of watch it from more of an objective perspective and about this demon that is trying to exploit these potential unhidden, suppressed homosexual desires of this child, because that's what Freddy does. He exposes your deepest, darkest fears, your vulnerabilities, right? He does that. He knows what you're afraid of. He knows your secrets, and he exposes them. I mean, that in and of itself is fast. If this movie had been released today, no big fucking deal at all. It really wouldn't have been. Mark Patton, if he was coming up today, he would have been being out as gay. He'd probably be out at 17, and he would have gone into the movie as a gay actor. They would have hired him because he was gay and what he brought to the table in that angle. And there may have even been more gayness, as not my words, their words, in the movie. There may have even been more, because there wouldn't have been that line that kind of I don't really know if we should. And I think that in and of itself is really fascinating. And that's how I kind of watched the movie. It's a different kid. It's not Nancy. It's not anybody she knew. It's this different kid who just, you know. And when you watch it from that perspective, it's frightening. It's frightening. It's frightening. How does he know that? How does Freddy know that? Because he taps into the deepest desires of your subconscious and gets really, really deep in there. How does he know that? He does. And he exploits it. And then he laughs at you in the mirror. Fuck. You fucking sick, twisted son of a bitch. Fuck you. Fuck you. It's creepy as fuck, man. And it's always been, it is my second favorite Elm Street film. Again, I don't think it holds a candle to the original in terms of quality and the different philosophical layers as well, in terms of the subconscious when it comes to dreams. And of course, he's frightening in that movie, and the dream sequences are really cool. But certainly, it's my second favorite because of the reasons that I've expressed here on this channel. So yeah, the title of the documentary again is Scream Queen: My Nightmare on Elm Street, and it basically walks you through the trials and tribulations of Mark Patton's experience while working on that movie. Mark Patton, of course, played Jesse, the main protagonist in the film. And I've no doubt he also talks about how it affected his career and how it essentially destroyed his career. The residual effects and the experience of working on that movie destroyed his career. And that is something that I'm really fascinated about checking out and watching. So Mark Patton, if you're watching, I'd love to get you on the show. I think we'd have a blast talking about this. And of course, you're probably thinking, what could I say that hasn't been said already? But it would just be loved. I'd love to get you on and talk about it because I think the more people that can be opened up to your experience and know sort of your side of things and what it was really like, I think the better. And because I'm a big fan of that movie, and I'm glad that there's this documentary. So my hat goes off to the independent filmmakers that brought this thing together. You guys rock. Amazing stuff. And if any of you guys, any of the director or the producers of those movies, of that movie, want to come on, just reach out to me and let me know, because it'd be great to have you on. Okay, let's go to the chat room and see what you guys are saying. Let's see what you guys are saying. Now, I believe there were some, let me just go over here. I know there were some super chats that came in. Let me see here. Let me just go over and see where these super chats are. I'm looking in the chat room here, but I also want to go to the other part because I believe there were some stuff that I might have missed. Let me see here. Yes, it looks like there's a super chat came in from Duke. This is when I went live the first time. And Duke says, I'm from the UK and watch you every day. You're the man. Thank you, Duke. Really appreciate that. Tommy Ricknell says, part 2 was extremely well received here in Europe, even more so than first and third, I dare say. It has a great 80s vibe to it. My favorite sequel. Fascinating, Tommy. I was not aware of that. Over here in North America, it was critically panned by both fans and critics. Jack Ellis sends in a super chat. Thank you, Jack. Says, hey, Dave, thanks for answering my questions on yesterday's live stream. Your videos got me through a dark time. Great to hear, man. You know, we are all going through things in our lives that are difficult and that can be really difficult to get through, whatever it is. And I just, you know, if my videos, whether they're crazy or not, whether it's McRae Live or whether it's my standalone videos or what have you, if they can help just make your day just a little bit easier, then I think that's amazing. So whatever it is you are going through, remain strong, man. You can do it. You can do it. Each day gets easier. Each day gets easier. Super chat from Nick P says, check my Karate Kid video. Watch to the end, he says. Everybody want to check Nick P's Karate Kid video out. He's got a Karate Kid video on his channel. Thank you for the super chats, Nick. I really do appreciate that. Mark Johnson says they even played on the characters Jesse as in the UK. It means gay, saying Big Jesse. Fascinating. Interesting. Oh, look, there is no doubt that the subtext in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is not, I mean, listen, it's classified as subtext because there's at no point in the movie where it is basically said that he is gay. And of course, he has an affection for Lisa. Right. And, you know, and so it's sort of, it falls into the subtext category because at no point in time is it woven into the narrative that, oh, he is a gay, kid. He is, 18, 19, and he is gay. And that is what Freddy's doing. And like, there's no point in time where that is revealed, nor would there be, certainly in 1985. So it will forever remain in the subtext category. But for Christ's sakes, I mean, anybody with a brain watching that movie can sit back and go, there's no way in fucking hell the writer writing this movie, writing these scenes. And remember, some scenes were toned down. Like, remember, the original was, I believe, I stand to be corrected. I don't know if this was originally in the script or if this was something maybe the director had an idea for or something. But I think it was originally in the script that, Freddy was to put his knife into Jesse's mouth. Now, whether he was going to pump it like this or not, I don't know. But I mean, come on. And then, of course, in the script, it actually says gay bar. It's a gay bar in the script. It's a gay bar in the movie. I mean, anybody writing this, nobody, even in 1985 or 84, whenever David Chaskin wrote it, there's no way anybody reading that would not have at least gone, is this what I think it is? Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, unless, and again, I say this with utmost, respect, because I don't know the guy. I'm not trying to, I say that in the sense, I'm not trying to make a joke, really. I mean, is David gay? Was he suppressing some sort of things? Did he have an experience with somebody he knew, right? Maybe it was a personal experience. Maybe it's because writers tend to write what they know, at least they should, and sometimes they write from personal experiences, maybe not necessarily from themselves, but maybe somebody they knew who knew somebody, thought it was a really neat idea, and he said, there's no way David just sat down and wrote this, and then at the end of the day, he's like, I don't know, it just came out, I didn't see it. Come on, man. And of course, he's since reversed that stance anyway, but it's just for years he denied it. It's like, buddy, come on. If a 6-year-old child in 1985 can go, okay, then I mean, come on, man. Mac 525 says, I always loved Freddie's laugh in the face after exposing Brian to Jesse. Oh yeah. It's just great shit. Love that. It's like he's taunting him, and he's so like he's totally in control. He's exposing that vulnerability, and there's not a fucking thing you can do about it. It's just fantastic. Duke Fleet says, Dave, do you like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 more than Wes Craven's New Nightmare? I've seen A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 much more, far more, I should say, than I've seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So instinctually, I want to say yes, but I would have to watch New Nightmare more, again, because maybe not, right? I'd have to see. But if I was ranking them, Elm Street 2 would come second. I've seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare over the years, maybe 10 times, and it might sound like a lot, but over the last, 26 years, it's not a lot, really. I like the movie. It's one of my favorites. I think it's the meta cerebral sort of approach is fantastic. But certainly Elm Street 2 is a pretty special one for me. A lot of nostalgia there for me, for sure. Chastity Smith says, still say the best scene was when Freddy walked through the fence, set on fire. Oh, wasn't that great? That whole pool. I know there's some logistics continuity issues in that scene, but you guys know me. The look on Freddy's face when the father comes out, shoots or tries to shoot him, but hits the shit on the table, and Freddy just turns and he's like this, and the flames are in the foreground. He's just looking at him like, it's like, fuck, that's fucking frightening. Frightening, man. It's frightening. I love that. Fuck. Amazing shit. Big G sends in a super chat. Thank you, Big G. Says, what was the girly scream from Jesse? Well, I don't think that was necessarily, I think that just was his scream. And I think that is, that is certainly at that time could have been part of what people, thought was, well, that's a little, dare I say, gay, right? A little soft, right? He sounds like a girl, right? You know what I mean? I mean, these are all things that are not my opinion. These are things that have been in the pop culture consciousness for decades. And these are things that people have always sort of noticed about the film. This is part of that. Now, obviously, again, Mark Patton is had a certain femininity about him, right? A certain softness about him, even as an actor. So when he did that, I don't think Mark was screaming like a girl. I think he was just screaming. He was just told to scream. So he went, ah, and he just screamed, right? You know what I mean? And that's how it came out. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I assume that's more than likely what happened. And that's he's a scream queen, man. He's a scream queen. Stevie Boat sends in a super chat. Thank you, Stevie. Says, Dave, where did you get your Friday the 13th hoodie that you sometimes wear? The one from the original film. I got it. They're not selling them anymore. Actually, it looks like they've really stepped back from selling hoodies at all. But I got it from a website called horrormerch.com. Horrormerch.com. Merch is in merchandise, but you don't but it's just horrormerch.com, not horrormerchandise.com, horrormerch.com. And I bought it there maybe 3 years ago, I guess. Great hoodie, great quality too, which maybe is the reason why they've taken a step back, because I was kind of surprised by the quality when it came in, because I was like, this is really good quality. Now, it was expensive. It was like $60. It was about $60 Canadian, I think. So it'd be a bit less for you guys in the States. But it was very good quality. And I was surprised how thick it was and warm. And I was like, this is really good. That's where I got it. But I since went on there about a month or two ago because I was thinking about ordering another one. And they didn't have any real hoodies left anymore. So I'm thinking maybe they kind of, because I wanted to get a Halloween 2 one. And I should have bought it. I should have bought it when I bought the Friday the 13th one, because they had exact same thing. Black hoodie, but on the front, it was just the Halloween 2 pumpkin, right? You know, with the skull, and it said Halloween 2. And I was like, oh, maybe I should get that. Maybe I shouldn't. And I didn't. And now I'm like, damn it, I should have got it. Cause yeah, really great quality stuff. Horrormerch.com. But I usually buy my shirts from 80s tees, horror merch, fright rags, terror threads. Those are sort of the big kind of common ones. Darren Sands, always talking to Tommy Ricknell. Great to see Darren here. Jason Greer says the "You Are All My Children Now" line, definitely a memorable one in the French. Oh my God. One of the best. The way he's like this and he's, it's one of the best. It's fantastic. I could not agree more. Did I miss any super chats? I don't think I did. Good. Did not. Cool stuff. It's great to see everybody here. I think we had 138 people, 140 people watching right now. It's great to see everybody here on this Friday afternoon. Oliver Mercer says, hey Dave, great show. Would you like to see a brand new Nightmare on Elm Street film set before the original where Freddy would be a living killer? I believe it would bring that scary outcome back. I don't know. I don't know in terms of a movie. I think that might make for a very interesting beginning of a series, where maybe you start there, perhaps. But to do a movie on it, I don't know. I don't, that's not really something I care about. Now, Freddy, as you've heard me say, is not like Michael Myers. I mean, Freddy is, we know about his backstory. We know that he was the, even though I don't really like this, we know that he's the, bastard child of 100 maniacs. We know that his mother was, nun or whatever. I mean, we know these things. And it doesn't ruin the mystique of Freddy. But I still think you still can go too far. And I just think, make Freddy scary again. I got to get a hat. Make Freddy scary again. Make Freddy scary again. Okay? It's just the way it is. It's amazing. I love Freddy. He's great. He's the biggest, the best, the brightest. But yeah, I don't know. Not really. I'm not really interested in that. Ryan Webster says, hey Dave, love the channel. Any thoughts on the Child's Play TV series coming? Keep up the great work. Thank you, Ryan, for the question. Any thoughts? Well, I haven't heard any news. We know that Mancini is definitely involved in that for the Sci-Fi Channel. I haven't heard anything, like anything new news, essentially. I mean, it's sort of the same kind of shit that's out there. I'm a big Child's Play fan, a big Child's Play, the original film fan. I'm not a big fan of the series because I think most of the movies are dog shit. But really like that first movie. Don't mind the second movie. Third movie's where it begins to lose it for me. Quite enjoyed the remake from 2019. Last year. I thought that was pretty good. But just kind of in a fun sort of imagine this sort of, it wasn't particularly scary per se, it was just a cool sort of alternate reality version of the story. It was Chucky being brought into the 21st century and utilizing a lot of the technology that we have today that didn't exist back then. I'm curious to see what Mancini does, but I haven't enjoyed most of his movies. So probability tells me that I probably won't enjoy most of what he's going to deliver on Sci-Fi. I think Chucky's just run its course. I have trouble believing, that people have this much trouble with a doll. I didn't in the first movie because it was like, wow, but now I don't know. I'm just not a Yeah, it's not a big fan. But hey, I don't want it to fail, right? Like you've heard me say here, just because I might be like, fuck, doesn't mean that I want it to fail. I want it to succeed. I would love it to blow me away. I want nothing more than Mancini's Child's Play TV series on Sci-Fi to blow me the fuck away. I just don't think it's going to happen. But we'll see. We'll see. Let me see here. Lester Simicata? Simicata? Am I saying that right? Simicata? I think I'm saying that right. Just getting into the horror genre myself. Anyone have any recommendations? I saw the original Halloween. Is there anything as good as that? Well, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Friday the 13th, a lot of the originals, Black Christmas, 1974, original Texas Chainsaw. Usually you want to start people with the originals because 9 times out of 10, the originals of a series tend to be the best in their series. Now, that can be, a lot of people don't put Friday the 13th Part 1 as their favorite in the series. I understand that. Okay, but for anything, then that would just give you a base start of where to, the foundation, of the series, right? But yeah, I would, Psycho, Rear Window from 1954, Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, Rosemary's Baby is great. But it depends on what you mean by horror. I mean, are you looking for modern horror? Are you a horror, blood, guts, and gore guy? Are you more of a psychological thriller kind of guy? Do you like mood and atmosphere, more of that theater of the mind? Because there's a lot of shit I can recommend for that. Some of the ones I've mentioned there is a good start. Anyway, let me see here. Kenneth Holmes says, "Hey Dave, love the channel." Thanks, Kenneth. Really appreciate that. Let me see what else we got here. The Shining. Yeah, The Shining's great. Absolutely. Yeah, The Shining is magnificent. One of the greatest psychological horrors of all time. There are so many layers to that movie. It's unbelievable. Let me see here. Who else we got? Bryce Russo says, "Do you like Pet Sematary 1989? I really feel it captures horror in every..." Yes, I really like the Pet Sematary movie from 1989. I did not see the remake from last year because it, well, quite frankly, looked like dog shit, and I didn't see it. So, the original, I like it. It's one of the better Stephen King movies, to be honest with you. DMT Infinity says, Silence of the Lambs is highly underrated. Silence of the Lambs is great. Now, again, Silence of the Lambs is not a horror movie per se. I mean, again, it's in the horror subgenre of psychological sort of thriller, I guess. But it's good. It's good. 1991, I think, was Silence of the Lambs, somewhere around there. Holiday Bro says, "Hey Dave, I have a question about kills that I haven't seen anybody ask you yet." Oh, fascinating. This is good. I love this stuff. "Do you think they are bringing all these characters back to conclude their characters so in ends it's Michael versus Laurie?" Well, yes and no. I think they are bringing these characters back for a number of reasons. Let's be honest. Nostalgia today is money. And also because, for what you said, I think it is going to conclude their story. And, but that doesn't mean that in concluding their stories, they die, right? That doesn't mean that. I mean, it just means that their arcs, it's like, whatever happened to Tommy Doyle? Whatever happened to Marion Chambers? Whatever happened to Brackett? What the fuck happened to Lindsay? I wonder whatever happened to that Lonnie Lamb. They're going to bring them back, add to their arcs, and conclude them, hopefully in a satisfying way. Do I think that everybody's going to get killed off and then it'll just be Laurie and Michael? No, I don't think they're. I think at least one of them is going to die at the very least. But whether all of them will, I don't know. I don't think so. If I was a betting man, I'd say no. Let me see who else we got here. Let me scroll back. I didn't miss any super chats. Oh wait, did I? No, I don't think I did. I didn't. That was from before. Okay, good. Nope, that was from before. Awesome stuff. Smith's Grove is talking to Bringer of Chaos. Sergio Ribeiro says, "What do you think of Roger Eggers? I think he's a great up-and-coming director. The Witch was fantastic, and The Lighthouse is such a deep and awesome movie, a complex as The Shining." I have yet to see The Lighthouse. But I saw The Witch and I liked it. Actually, one of the producers of that movie, my buddy Bruce knows. And because that was shot up here in Canada, The Witch. And White's supplied all the gear for that. And I think it's a really good movie. There were some creative decisions that were made in The Witch that I thought, I think you need a little more of this, just a little more, kind of a little more. There were certain points I found just maybe a little slow, but overall I thought it was great. I've yet to see The Lighthouse. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Anytime that you can have, anytime a director or a writer can have a consistent sort of level of success. And that doesn't mean that The Lighthouse is better than The Witch or The Witch is better than The Lighthouse, or, but when you can have some consistent success, that's always a good thing. I did not like Midsommar as much as I liked Hereditary, but it's not like Midsommar is a bad movie, right? It's not a bad movie. It's just maybe not quite as good as Hereditary, but it's pretty good in its own right, in its own way. And I love what the director is doing and sort of the risks that they're taking, the avenues and areas they're not afraid to go into. I really like that. So that's important. That's important. The Horror Show sends in a super chat. Well, thank you, Horror Show. You didn't have to do that. Sends a super chat, says, "Hey, Dave, first time, long time. Hopefully you'll get a chance to watch New Nightmare again soon." Yes, hopefully I will. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, you little. Yes, myself and Cecil from The Horror Show are actually, and hopefully Tony as well from Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. We're going to set up a Two Dudes eventually soon down the road and watch New Nightmare together with Miko Hughes. And we'll be able to ask some or get him to fill in some blanks on the production of New Nightmare. So that's going to be fun. It's not going to be happening next week, but in the hopefully in the not too distant future, we will be able to set that up and do that because that's going to be fun to do. And that will be on an episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then of course you guys will get to ask your usual questions throughout the stream as well. And at the end of the stream too. So that's, I'm looking forward to that. Going to be fun stuff indeed. Mark Johnson says Laurie has a sycophantic breakdown and Michael and Laurie match up and become Myers killers, double killing. I don't think that's going to happen. I would be very surprised if that happened, but you never know. You never know. I mean, crazier things have happened. Movie Chat and More says, "Hi Dave, why does Pam Voorhees' tombstone say she died in 1979 when she clearly died on June 13th, 1980? Well, the movie was released in 1980, but I believe in the actual story of the film, the movie actually takes place in 1979. Now, Friday the 13th experts in the room can confirm or deny whether I am correct on that, but I believe the story does take place in 1979, even though the movie was released in 1980. So that is why. Mr. No Name says, "Hey Dave, do you think Halloween Ends will end with Michael and Laurie dying together? I hope so." I don't, but I hope so. I hope they have the balls to do that. The Film Addict says, "Hey Dave, what is your favorite Jack Torrance line? Also, I've been feeling a little better than yesterday mentally, but I'm still taking baby steps because I'm not 100%. And that's okay, man. That's okay. It's always about baby steps, man. It's baby steps, baby steps. This stuff takes time. It takes time. Takes time. Just know that we're behind you, whatever it is you're going through, and everything is going to be okay." My favorite Jack Torrance line. Oh, man. I mean, I don't know. Can I think on that one? Because there's quite a few lines in that movie that are pretty fucking spectacular. I want to think on, get back to me again, maybe next week on McRae Live and ask me again, because I want to make sure, because there's some in there some that are just even sort of just off the cuff things that you don't even think about that I think are kind of good. But I got to think about that one. All right, let me see here. Who else we got? And, oh no, it was the last super chat from the horror show. Cecil sending some love to the channel. James Sundberg says, hey Dave, what do you think of Halloween Kills being very emotional? I think being emotional yet having Michael being very brutal is a cool dynamic and enforces him being a force of nature. Well, emotional, all these things are very subjective. So whether the film, I mean, I have heard in the bullet points that the movie is emotional, and that's always cool. But whether it actually ends up being emotional or not, I don't know. I mean, emotional in what way, I'm not sure. I mean, I also heard that about the 2018 film, that it's emotional, that it's the best since the original. I mean, I was at the world premiere here in Toronto. I heard the buzz coming out of the theater. Oh my, it's fucking amazing, Everybody was there. Collider was there. Bloody Disgusting was there. Everybody was there, right? Holy fuck, oh my God, holy fuck. You got to take these things with a grain of salt. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying the 2018 film was a bad movie. Again, I don't think the 2018 film was a shitty movie. I think it's a very good, serviceable, fun, modern day slasher movie. I just think it missed the mark by and large as a Halloween movie. Even though there were some good things in it that were very Halloween-y, absolutely. But overall, I think it's like, what they did well, they did really well, which makes what they didn't do well that much more frustrating. But I'm not saying that Halloween Kills isn't as good as people who saw the test screening saying it is. I'm not saying that, but it's a very subjective thing. I'm very picky, and not picky because I intentionally try to be that way. I'm picky because I'm a very tough person to please, and because I care. But I'm also the first to admit that if something's really good and really well done, I'll say it. I said, it's fucking amazing. That's really well done. Bang on. Really well done. Really well done. I'm going to say it. So we'll see. It's emotional. It's so emotional. Okay. All right, we'll see. They said that about 2018 too. Mark Johnson says, at the end of the new Halloween, Michael and Laurie hold hands skipping down the road. Yes, they do. They skip down the road together, and you hear, happy, happy day, yeah. Happy, happy day, yeah. That's what you hear. You hear that from under the mask. Under the mask. Johnny T says, have you had the opportunity to see the Cool Ed's version of Rob's? No, I have not. It's probably not something I am going to watch because I hear people say that it's better and that's great, but I haven't had a chance to. It's just not a priority for me. I won't say never, but no, I have not had a chance to sit down and watch it. But I'm glad that people are enjoying this alternate reality version of Rob Zombie's Halloween. That is always good. What do we got here? Let me see. Gary Rangel says, Dave, did the violence in 2018 seem more realistic than H2O? Forgot to ask you that. Well, I like, and again, I'm a theater of the mind kind of guy, but I'm not dumb. I'm not stupid, contrary to popular belief. No, but I'm not stupid. So I understand why they made the creative decisions they did. Why there was less theater of the mind than maybe I would have liked. I understand that. I totally get it. But what I did like about it was that most of the deaths were off screen. And we only saw the residual effects of those deaths. It created this sense of eeriness. Like, I can only imagine because I'm not a first responder. If there are any first responders in the chat right now, my heart, I mean, like, you're a doctor, doctors aren't first responders, but maybe a doctor in like an emergency room at a hospital, let's say, even though that's not a first responder. But if you're firefighter, paramedic, or police officer, right? Those are your first responders. My hat goes off to you. I mean, I know a couple of paramedics I went to college with, and I remember asking one of the paramedics, what's the worst thing you can come across as a paramedic? And he said to me, car accident, burn victim, fire. And I was like, oh my God. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can't even imagine that. Like, it's just like, fuck. And a lot of these guys and gals, man, do suffer PTSD depending on what they come across. Decapitated people, bodies, limbs. It's fucking insane. In Halloween 2018, there's a few instances where we see the end result of a horrific event. And so it's almost like we're the first responders coming up on the scene. And it's just eerie. It's eerie and creepy because I've often said that how bad was it that is the end result of whatever did this? What the fuck are we dealing with here? It was very creepy and very eerie. Now, I know that in Halloween Kills, they probably do away with that. And it's going to be a lot bloodier, a lot gorier, and you're going to see a lot more kills on camera. I have no doubt that you will, because they have to step it up. But certainly, I liked, ironically, because I'm a theater of the mind guy, but I think it's because they're in that more gratuitous sort of reveal. There's still some theater of the mind happening within me because I'm like, oh my God, what are we dealing with? Holy shit, what happened? How did this head, go from this to what do you do? There's still some weird theater of the mind happening. So it was kind of cool. I have a feeling that there's going to be very little theater of the mind in this next movie, but I don't know. Is it gorier than H2O? I haven't seen H2O in quite a number of years from start to finish. So I don't know. I just know that that's how I felt about the 2018 film. Let's see. Okay, did not miss any super chats. That's good. Let me see. Trying to get somebody. Bringer of Chaos says the opening scene was okay, though. The opening scene was okay. Of 2018? Tom's talking to the horror guy. Hans Gruber says, yes, H18 trailer gave away that closet scene. Lame as fuck. They did. And that's not David Gordon Green's fault. That's not his fault. That's not Carpenter's fault. That's probably not even Jason Blum's fault. That's the marketing. That's the marketing department and what Universal approved, in terms of being able, it's part of their, and look, it works well as marketing. It does. It's a great shot to end a trailer on. It is. It's just but any sort of suspense you were trying to create in that scene is lost because listen, you don't have to see somebody killed, in a trailer to know that, okay, in this kind of a movie, that girl's probably gonna die, right? You know what I mean? We sort of know the formula of these films. But the unfortunate part is that as soon as we see Vicky, we know A, that she is going to die, B, that, where she's going to die, and C, when she's going to. So there's no suspense whatsoever in that scene, so that is unfortunate. I do agree. Ryan Webster says, hey, Dave, should Laurie die in one of the next Halloween films? I think so. Love her, but time for Mike. Are you guys not listening to it? You guys have asking this before. But yes, well, I guess, to be fair to Ryan, this is a should instead of do I think she will. To be fair to Ryan, do I think she should? Yes, I think she should. I think it should end with Michael and Laurie, and I think it should end like my sequel concept idea video that's on my channel. I think that's how it should end. It began with Laurie and Michael. It should end with Laurie and Michael. That's what I think. Let me see. Any other questions other than Halloween? Fuck. Love you guys in your Halloween. ZGoRZ Skate 45 says, hey, Dave, are you still going to do that episode with Wham? Yes, I will be making an announcement this weekend. So get ready for that. Smith's Grove says, I'm hot and cold with H2O. Like the cast, though. I fucking hate H2O. I don't hate it as much as Halloween 5, but I just think it's, there's certain little things that I like, but overall, it's like, it's so like Michael walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek. It doesn't take place in Haddonfield. It's got this warm summertime feel. It's just the mask, it was cool for what it was in 1998, but it's just one of the, even 5 feels more like Halloween than H2O does. Oh boy. Let me see here. Daisy McMillan says, Dave, have you seen Ready or Not? I have not seen that movie yet. Thank you for asking that, though, because as I mentioned a few times on this channel, a high school friend of mine, Melanie Scrofano, I think it's Scrofano. She's in that movie. She's not the lead. She plays one of the sisters, I guess, or something like that. But that movie was shot up here in Toronto. That big that big sort of castle-like mansion that you see in that movie is Casa Loma here in Toronto, which is actually not too far away from the Black Christmas house. They're sort of in the same area, hence why the homes are so fucking big. Very ritzy area of Toronto. I have not, but I do want to see it. And Melanie is also she also plays Winona Earp. She's the lead in that as well for the Sci-Fi Channel. I remember years ago when we were coming up, I remember when I was doing on-camera acting at the time, before I got, neck deep into the voiceover, we did an audition together. And it was an audition for... I didn't get it, and I don't think she got it, because I saw the ad afterwards, and neither of us obviously were in it, but it was an audition for a commercial. I think it was I want to say it was like was it a margarine commercial or something, or a butter commercial? Something like that. I mean, this is like, God, maybe 15 years ago, 16 years ago, something like that. And I remember showing up at the studio and walking in, and she was there, and she was like, "Oh my God, Dave!" And we hadn't seen each other since high school at that point. And we went to high school in Ottawa, which is about 4.5 hours away. It's the nation's capital. It's our version of Washington D.C. Right? We grew up in Ottawa, so but we obviously moved to Toronto, being the New York and L.A. of Canada. So in terms of the entertainment industry, so it was just funny to see her. Oh my God, it's magic. And now she's done so well. And I'm so proud of her. Maybe I should reach out to her and get her on the show. That might be kind of fun. I should do that. I don't know if she'd do it because she's a busy bee. But yeah, she's great. So I definitely want to see the movie, if not for anything, to support her. I mean, but I hear it's great too. Super chat comes in from Frank Riker, says, Dave, do you think the dynamic of H-18 would have changed if Allison was Al and her grandson? Yeah, that's interesting, Frank. And thank you for the super chat, buddy. That's interesting. I think you sort of have to go with the traditional sort of lineage concept, right? Because there's always, one of the reasons why, and this is not the only reason, but one of the reasons why you don't see male by and large, right? You do every now and then, but by and large, why you saw and why you still continue to see young women as the main protagonists is because of the sense of vulnerability that creates when going up against a male antagonist. Traditionally, obviously, women are not as physically as strong as men. So that's a biological fact. That doesn't mean there are not women out there that couldn't kick my ass. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, generally speaking, the biological makeup of men and women are very different in terms of muscle density and bone density and muscle mass and all that kind of stuff. So women tend to always, when you have a woman protagonist and a male antagonist, there's that sense of vulnerability. It's, oh shit, right? So that's part of it. And when you have a male or a male protagonist against a male antagonist, you sort of tend to lose that vulnerability, that sense of urgency, that sense of discrepancy, between the two in terms of physical strength and what they can and cannot do. So I think just naturally it usually kind of falls in that arena. But also it makes sense when we talk about the paralleling the sort of layers of symbolism that you want to instill into a film like that and draw those parallels. Naturally, you would just, to do that, you would write the character to be female. But writing the character male is an interesting angle. It's interesting, but it may come off as a little cheesy in some ways. It's not easy to do. Having a male protagonist that must have a sense of vulnerability in a slasher film is not easy to do. You can do it, but it's not easy. It's not easy. Usually the main protagonist is female, and the other, characters who can be male usually fall by the wayside early on in the movies. That's an interesting question. Mark Johnson says, I love Canadians, so much nicer than Americans. Tim Hortons, hell yeah. Well, I think traditionally we are nice. Yeah, there is a general nicety to Canada and to Canadians, but don't fool yourselves. We have a lot of fucking idiots up here too, and a lot of people who are not nice, and a lot of people who are just pieces of crap. Pieces of garbage crap. I mean, we have pedophiles up here. We have, murderers up here. We have gang activity up here. We have, and it exists. I mean, it does not maybe on the larger scale that it does in the US, but you also have, like 20 times our population. Canada, essentially, give or take, is about, 40 million people, right? Well, in the US, you have over 300 million people. Naturally, by just, population alone, the more people you have, the more of that you're going to have. So, but yes, generally speaking, we are a nice folk. I guess we are nice, but certainly we have problems up here too. Vanderhoff 60 F66 FU says, and thank you for the super chat, buddy. Says, Dave, how great are the scenes in Nightmare 2 where he has the glove on next to his sister sleeping and Freddy outside the kitchen window at night? Oh yeah. That moment where Jessie, I love that scene where the door opens and she's like, skipping in her room. It's like 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's like shades of Heather O'Rourke, who played what's her face in Poltergeist, Carol Ann. I think it was Heather O'Rourke, right? I think that's her name. She always reminds me of her. Because it's the whitish, almost whitish, yellowish. It's not dirty blonde. It's like blonde. You know what I mean? And there's shades of that in there. I love that scene. I do. And then of course, the scene where he goes up and he tucks her in, but he's got the glove. It's like, oh my God, Yeah, it's great stuff. Great stuff, man. Could not agree more. Matt Rayner sends in a super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel, buddy. Really appreciate it. Says, when it comes to Freddy's revenge, I believe the character of Ron should have had a better kill than what he had. What do you think? And is there any other kills you would have done differently? I can see why. Is it? Are you talking? Hang on a sec here. I'm drawing a brain fart. Let me just see here. I want to see cast. Oh, Ron, right. Okay, yes. Just want to make sure. I know him so much as Grady. I forgot that his first name was Ron Grady. Right. Okay, I thought that's who you were talking about, but I just wanted to double check and make sure, because I think he's referred to as Grady for most of the movie by everybody. So, that's a good... I mean, there's so many different things you could do in that scene. But at the end of the day, that scene's not really about Grady. It's about Jessie. It's about sort of Freddy, becoming, infiltrating insidiously, because he's been doing it through the entire movie, insidiously trying to infiltrate Jessie's body, trying to gain his trust, even though he never really does. I understand that maybe Grady could have had maybe a little more of a sensational, theatrical death, perhaps. But the crux of that scene is really about Jessie and Freddy. So I think that's why it never really bothered me. Seeing Freddy come out of Jessie's body and then stand up, and just put on the hat, and kind of, oh my God, it's fucking magnetic. It's amazing. And then him opening his mouth and seeing the eye doing this, and like, fuck. It's great. Like, there's so much going on in that scene that it never really bothered me. It almost was like Grady was just there to service Jessie and just get to that moment, So I didn't mind it. I actually didn't mind that scene and his death in that way. But I can understand that maybe they could have done a little more, maybe. But I certainly like, the claw, the glove through the door and coming down the door and shit like that. That was really cool. Let's see here. Super chat comes in from Big G and says, Dave, when is Dylan's new Nightmare going to be ready? Well, we haven't started shooting it yet, Big G. We shoot it the end of May. I fly to Phoenix on May 25th, the day after my 41st birthday, actually. I fly to Phoenix on the Monday, and then, but they start shooting it that week. So I will be transported from the airport right to the set to join everybody and share in the creative the creative energy of the environment, which I'm just so looking forward to. It's just going to be amazing. And we shoot that week. And then obviously it will go into post-production. And I believe the goal, if Cecil's still watching, I'm not 100% sure if he is, and I don't want to speak for him, but I believe the goal is hopefully to have it ready for release this Halloween. Now, whether that does end up happening or not, who knows, right? I mean, obviously, they have to, first and foremost, is the quality of the picture. So, but I think that's the general consensus idea. So we haven't begun shooting it yet, my man. We shoot at the end of May. Super chat from Mac25. Thank you, Mac. Thank you very much. Says, thoughts on the "You've Got the Body, I've Got the Brain" scene in Revenge. I consider it one of the scariest in the franchise. Love that channel. Love the channel. Love that channel. Love the channel. Thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate it. It's a great scene. It's Freddy is just downright terrifying in that movie, and the voice modulation that they did on Robert Englund was fantastic. I would have been happy if they had just stuck with that voice through the rest of the series. Now, that alone would not have made the shitty movies good movies, but at least it would have made, because there are some moments in the later sequels where it's just all of a sudden Robert Englund talking. And I know you can justify and say, well, maybe that's really what he sounds like. But then he comes to you in dreams and, because he's essentially a dream demon, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. He can dematerialize, he can materialize, he can fucking take shapes of shit. He's not real. He's literally supernatural. But there's something about his voice being like that, which is just awesome. If you guys watch the first trailer, or the trailer, I should say, for the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. In that trailer, Robert Englund, the phone scene, what the hell am I trying to say here? The phone scene in that trailer, right? I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy, right? It's in the trailer. But this, obviously, the trailer was edited and produced and put together and released before they did any sort of, at least final, modulation on Freddy's voice. And in the trailer, you actually hear that scene, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. But it's actually just Robert's voice. And it sounds weird. It doesn't sound intimidating at all. She's got the phone to her ear, and you hear, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. That's what you hear. YouTube it. Look it up. But of course, in the actual movie, it's, I'm your boyfriend now. Or whatever it is. I'm not sure if that's exactly verbatim what he says, but it's something like that. Just kind of a funky anecdotal sort of trivia for you there. But yeah, I mean, that scene alone is fantastic. The way he peels off the skull and you can see the brain and you don't just see the brain, you see the brain pulsating. It's like there's certain sections of his brain that are active and that are working right now. Like the prefrontal cortex is like fucking just Yeah, I love that scene, man. Love it. Laura Downing says, yes, Heather O'Rourke. Loved Poltergeist, was my favorite as a kid. Okay, yeah. Well, the girl in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 has a bit of, she's older than Carol Ann was in Poltergeist, but certainly has a bit of that Heather O'Rourke vibe going, which I absolutely loved. I think is really cool. All right, we'll go for another 8 or 9 minutes here. Another 8 or 9 minutes, bring it to an hour and a half. The Horror Show says, yes, make me a wrench so you can see my responses easier. Well, maybe I'll do that, man. Yes, maybe I will do that and add you to the moderation. That would be something I wouldn't mind doing. That would bring our total to 6. And as our channel grows, then obviously it's always good to get good trustworthy people on the team of moderators who can moderate certain people. David says, Dave, do you like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 more than Dream Warriors? I think it's Do I like A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 better than Dream Warriors? I would say yes, I do. I do like it better than Dream Warriors. I do. Yeah. Not because of the story, just the atmosphere. But there are isolated things in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors that I absolutely love. And there's moments that are just fantastic. But as a whole, I think I enjoy watching Elm Street 2 better than Elm Street 3. As funny as that sounds, even though I know Elm Street 3 is the fan favorite. David says, Dave, do you like Oh, that's what I just read. That's funny. Let me see. DMT Infinity says, Dave, do you by any chance have a favorite horror video game that you would recommend? And if so, could you please elaborate on what's your favorite horror video game? Well, I'm not a gamer. So I have a PS4. I enjoy playing Grand Theft Auto and shooting some shit up. And I enjoy playing my hockey, my NHL hockey. And I enjoy playing, just little games here or there. But I couldn't tell you through a hole in the wall what a good horror video game is. My days of being a gamer are long behind me. I left them in 1994 or 1996, because I do remember playing NHL 96 on my Sega Genesis. And of course, I had a Nintendo who didn't, and I am old enough to remember the Atari. That wasn't, of course, for my generation per se. I was born in 79. Atari is more late 70s, early 80s. But of course, again, as I've mentioned, I have older siblings. So I do remember playing Pac-Man and Space Invaders and Pitfall and, boxing. I even remember boxing on the Atari. It was like these two circles with these two arms. It would just it was weird. You could probably YouTube it now. I'm going to YouTube it after the show just for nostalgic purposes. But yeah, so I wouldn't know, man. But you know what? I do know a lot of gamers do watch me. And they might be in the chat. So maybe you gamers out there can recommend a good horror video game for DMT Infinity. David Quintanilla, he's talking to people. That's great. Great to see you guys. I love this. I love the community that we're building. I love that. Fantastic. And yes, don't worry. The horror show will be a moderator after this show is done. So good. I will do that. I will definitely do that. And we'll have 6 real powerful, awesome moderators and who make their way in and out of the chats to make sure everybody is fucking behaving themselves. You better be careful, because Cecil will fuck you up. If you don't behave yourself, Cecil is going to fuck you up. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Matt W. says, I think it's time for a badass Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Back to the roots with a modern day twist. Well, they are doing a sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is a go. It has been greenlit. They are doing it. They are doing another. I know there was one from 2013. I believe it was 2013. They're doing another direct sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. So now whether it's going to be good or not, I don't know. But, they are doing it. Lauren Downing says, Cecil will give you the glove and not in a nice way. You're right. Let me see here. Min Gun Kun. I probably could read that if all the letters were the same case, but I see. Dead. Aim Gun Con. I'm probably butchering that, man. Anyway, you know who you are. There was a horror fan who made little demos of a Halloween and Texas Chainsaw game. They were little nibblets, but still cool to see. Yes, I did. I saw the Halloween one, and it was cool. It was a little redundant. Like I certainly couldn't do that. The artistry and the concept as a concept was really cool. I would love to see him sort of just kind of take it to the next level. I think that would be really cool too. All right, 2 more minutes left in the show for today on this Friday. David Newton says, will Dylan's new Nightmare be a full-length film or just 15-20 minutes? Well, I think it will probably be anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. Now, 10 minutes is a lot. But I think Cecil can confirm here whether or not that is the case. I gather that it will somewhere in there, maybe 25, 30, between 25 and 30 minutes, somewhere in there, right, is my guess. But Cecil will be able to confirm or deny that. David Ferguson is here. Just got back from work. Hate missing these live chats. I used to have an old original Atari console back in the day. Oh, those graphics. Yes. Oh, we had an Atari too. Again, I mean, I was born in 79, so Atari really wasn't geared towards me per se. The original Nintendo is sort of my generation, but certainly, like I said, having older siblings who were born in 1964, 1968, and 1970, that was, their kind of Nintendo entertainment system. And I believe there was also a system called Intellivision as well. Intellivision. Strange. But yeah, I remember it. I remember it. Pretty cool stuff. All right, folks, that is going to do it for me here on episode 21 of McRae Live. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and asking questions. Thank you for all the super chats as well. I really do appreciate it. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. And I will be back. I might have a standalone video coming this weekend. We'll see how that goes. I have a big production meeting with Bruce tomorrow for It's Me, Billy, which is just huge. We've started the casting process, so that is exciting to say the least. And of course, for my level 3 patrons tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m., I have Thorazine, the all Halloween only AMA. Tune in for that tomorrow if you are a level 3 patron. So that is going to do it for me here. And don't forget, watch that documentary if you can get your hands on it. I don't think the documentary has been released yet. But as soon as it does, watch it. Check out the trailer for it on YouTube. Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. And if you are friends with Robert Pattinson, there I go again. If you're friends with Mark Patton and or if he has Twitter, tweet him and let him know how much I would love to get him on the show and talk some Elm Street 2 and this documentary, because I think it's so important for a variety of reasons. Mark, we love you, man. We love Elm Street 2. You rock! All right, that's going to do it for me. Have a great weekend, and I'll be back. If not with a standalone video, I'm definitely coming back on Monday night with episode 50, whatever the hell I am, 59, 2 dudes and some bullshit, Monday night, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, have a great weekend, guys, and I will talk to you soon. There we go. Now I'm ready to roll it. Cheers.